Looking at, like, I've been seeing you. You're everywhere. You know, just always bouncing around and at this mortgage event, that real estate event. What are you doing?
We're sowing seeds.
Yeah?
Yeah, you got to keep the people. You got to keep your customers your customers.
You out there networking is what that is, right?
Exactly.
What we're all supposed to be doing.
That's what I've been hearing, at least.
Yeah. Are you doing anything down in South by? Are you doing any South by Southwest?
You know, we are not actually doing South by Southwest. We like to go to a lot of our little local places to go and hang out. And Gary sings and plays guitar and harmonica and stuff. So he likes to kind of go to some of the places where he usually goes. So tonight we'll go to Giddy Ups, and I'll listen to him sing later this evening and be the good groupie.
Oh, there you go.
The good groupie girlfriend.
Oh, she's going to watch a man do some work. Nice. So how's business?
You know, this is it's always good. I can't complain ever. It was kind of interesting today when I went and had my hair done that my hairdresser heard for the first time that I actually do other things besides teach. And he said, "Really? I only think of you as teaching. I don't ever think of you as consulting or doing anything different." And I said, "Well, yes." And so, you know, I got clients coming up for audits. And, you know, if you haven't had the audit card in the last 12 months, you might get it this year.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, and so you better be prepared. And, you know,
Ruh-roh.
Usually what they do is wait till they get the audit card, and then they call me in a panic.
And then they get worried, right?
Well, and I don't know why they worry, because usually when I get there, everything's fine.
Right.
The ones that don't call me are the ones who need to worry, because those are the ones who don't know that they don't know, that they don't know what they're doing.
Oh, and she said it on the podcast.
Well, they know it.
There you go. Well, hey, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Big B Mortgage Podcast. Today, I've got just a super special lady sitting in the chair joining me for the first time. This is your first ever podcast?
This is my first podcast. I've done one radio show, but my first podcast.
There you go. See, I love being the first time.
And just so everybody knows, I look really good because my hairdresser just did my hair.
That's it. She just had some wicked work done. It was good. So I got Giuliana Brock in my chair today. Giuliana, tell the people who you're with.
I own Power Training, a mortgage and real estate education school.
I'm sorry, she's an owner, everyone.
Oh, well.
Bad.
I don't put it on the card. Everybody else, I'm just a corporate trainer. But sometimes people don't know what that means. And sometimes people don't know what Power Training means. They call me to see if I can fix their transmission.
Nice.
So
you know what?
And then I ask them if they want to be an LO.
Right? If they're good, you just try to recruit them while you're at it.
Exactly. Hey, you know anything about mortgage? You know there's a T in mortgage?
God, man. I tell you what, like those of you who don't know, I've been dealing with Giuliana now for years. And I've watched her just, go around and do these classes. And the thing I've always liked about the way you do it versus maybe some of the others that'll remain nameless. But, you know, it's like when it comes to either renewing or becoming a new loan officer or, you know, God forbid you let your license expire and now you're trying to get back into it, right? A lot of people, myself included, thought, I can do it online. And I can tell you from experience, doing it online is painful. I don't want to read that much.
Or be read to.
Or be read to. Yeah, that's some of the other stuff. And the thing I've always loved about the way you do it, it's interactive, it's fun, and you really drill in on trying to help people know what to expect, right?
I try my best and try to give them a good idea of what's to come.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, and not just all sunshine and rainbows. Like, oh, that test will be fine, darling.
Yeah, don't you worry.
Don't
Bless
you worry
your
about
heart.
Yeah, you go and you take it twice. Don't even sweat it.
Yeah. Well, you know, Bobby, sadly, the true fact is less than 70% pass the first time.
Yeah.
So they kind of need to think about taking it twice, and they need to have a good savings plan. Because if they don't have a savings that they can tap into, because you cannot originate till you pass that test.
Right on.
Well, let me phrase differently. Until you do everything, and still passing the test is only one piece.
Right.
You still got to get through the licensure. You still got to wait. And one of our dear friends at Movement in Houston, who just came on board a few months ago, had a real ordeal trying to just move from registered to licensed. And it took almost 2 months. So that's reality. And that's when you do everything right.
Well, and that's the other part, too, is it's like if you're getting a new license right now, God bless you. Don't quit your day job until the license is active. Because I've got one fellow who I'm waiting to bring on board, and he was getting his license, and it's been over 2 months since he passed everything and submitted everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like he'll call every so often just to check. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're serving number 421 today.
Yeah.
Well,
the nice thing about the state is they will tell you what day they're working on,
right.
so you can at least clock down to your date or have an idea. If they're working on November 12th now, then you have a good wait to go. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they are. I'm just using that as an example.
Right, of course. Let's not get the state mad now.
Oh, absolutely not. They
They're
training.
so awesome.
We are everybody's friend.
There you go. Well, hey, let's do this. So before we start talking about ins and outs of the training and everything, because I definitely want you to talk about that. But before we do, take me back. How did you get into this? Like, I mean, what were you
Training
doing?
or mortgage?
Both. I mean, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean,
Well, for me, mortgage came first.
okay.
Because you
How'd
got to know
get
what
into
you're
mortgage?
doing before you can train somebody else. I'll
Really?
say that.
Are you sure?
Well, let me just say what happens. You know what it looks like, blind leading the
what?
blind.
YouTube's pretty good.
Oh, actually, I've never Googled it for how to take a loan app. I may have to try that out.
No, so take me back. How did you get into mortgage?
Well, believe it or not, this little girl said, I'm not going to college. I don't have the discipline to do it. Even though my parents we'll pay for wherever you want to go. I just had a different plan mentally. And I went on a job interview with a headhunter who decided that I was a detail-oriented person. And he said, oh, you can be a loan processor. And literally I could see my head go, tink, tink. What does that pay? Is all I wanted to know.
There it was.
At 18 years old, I'm going, how much does they make? And when he told me, and God, $12.50 back then was a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And so I started working for Holland Mortgage back in 1982.
Okay.
And so I started processing, and I processed all the way, until I became an AE. And, nobody would hire me because I didn't have a book of business, but I had the knowledge.
Right.
And so I could walk in your office and actually help you and tell you what you're doing wrong and help you get your file and clean it up when you submitted it to us. And so then I started realizing as an AE that I had people who didn't know how to, back then you still had to read credit reports. You got rate sheets that were on walls of clipboards, and if your clipboard wasn't up there, then you went and bought a clipboard and a nail and put your clipboard on the wall at the mortgage company so they'd look at your rate sheet, and they had to learn how to price loans.
Right.
So I just started writing a piece, and so I'd say, I'm going to come in and teach your people how to read credit reports. I'm going to teach them how to calculate income. I'm going to teach them how to price loans. I'm going to teach them how to interview borrowers.
Right.
And before I knew it, I had a book, and all my friends said, "Oh man, you need to get approved," because in 1999 Texas passed the Mortgage Broker Licensing Act.
Right.
Long before NMLS. And my friends are going, "You need to get approved." I'm going, "I got a job." They're going, "No, you're 100% commission. You don't have a job." No, I have a job. I can't quit. Wait a minute. What do you mean? And so. A dear friend of mine sat me down and she said, I'm sorry, I just don't get it. She said, why are you not quitting your job? Why are you not moving to the next level? And I said, I don't know. And then the silliest thing came out of my mouth, which was, I have insurance. And she said, so what you're saying is that you're not going to go to the next level for $285 of insurance. And I said, when you say it, it sounds so silly. And I said, but you're right. And so then at the time, I became power processing.
Okay.
And I really taught processors. And I was very blessed that a lot of people in Austin knew me already and knew the quality of my work and knew that I could teach their processors how to process the way I processed.
Right.
Would be minimal to no conditions. And if I got a condition back, I wanted to know what happened. And I just didn't have that.
Right.
And this was, guys, I processed originally like on a typewriter. we collated things ourselves. We didn't have a collating copy machine.
Right?
You know?
What? I had this fancy stuff called carbon paper.
Hey, and let me tell you, we liked it. We didn't have a choice.
I've told people before on other episodes, I remember, because I got my start selling mobile homes.
Oh, wow.
Back then you'd pull credit on this itty-bitty little machine that was plugged into a phone jack. And, of course, this is back in the AOL days, right? So it was like everything was dial-up. And so whenever we would request somebody's credit report, first off, the screen's like an inch big. You know what I mean? And so if you screw up, you're just starting over. But, and then you'd have to go through that whole...
Yeah.
And it would come out on that funky fax paper,
It was called thermal paper.
Oh, dear God.
Now, honey, I have to go back even further than that.
Take me back.
When we used to order credit reports, we used to fax the application to the credit bureau, to the credit reporting agency. And then we would wait, 5 or 6 days.
5 or 6 days?
5 or 6 days before we got the credit report back. And it would print off in this machine that they would bring to our house and to our office, and when that machine would go off, everybody would run in there to see whose credit report was coming over, and those were the good old days,
Dang. Okay, you got me.
I'm just saying.
No, you got me. Cool.
I know you're way too, but
you one-upped me, man.
Well,
That's cool.
not intentionally.
Come on. So you created power processing to train processors, right?
Yes.
And then it just kind of morphed into the LO thing, or what?
It did, because, like I said, Texas passed licensing.
Right.
And everyone had to pass tests. And if you wanted to make sure you passed, or if you wanted, let me phrase that differently, if you wanted to have the knowledge that you needed to pass, you had the word just kind of got around.
That
Power
was back
training
when the
can
test
help you.
was a lot easier.
When it was only a Texas test. This was before it was a federal test.
I always jokingly say it was darn near open book.
It pretty much kind of was. I mean, the questions weren't that hard.
Nope.
And there was not as much memories. There was a little more memorization when it came to dates, because they were a little more specific about when was ECOA passed, when was Truth in Lending passed, versus what is it about.
Right.
And so, if you can't memorize the small amount that you needed, and I want to say it was less than 100 questions, and so it was. The test was absolutely much easier back then, but still, if you didn't know, you don't know. And I have a saying that I've heard from forever and ever, and it's simple when you know it, and simply awful when you don't. And
I'm still in that.
Okay.
I'm still in it.
And so, and that's kind of what it was. I know it, and you don't, and I can help you get there. And so I can't tell you. I probably should have kept track, but just countless numbers of originators that came through us and got through their test back when it was just Texas.
Yep.
And then when NMLS took over, 2008-ish, then it became a little harder, and the test was really geared for knowing federal law. Where now it's changed, and so we don't do as much test preparation because it's just so difficult. And test questions are copyrighted, and once NMLS finds out that a test question is compromised, you may have a great set of questions. You may buy a book from somebody that has 300 questions in it, but if 100 of those questions have been compromised, then you only have 200 questions. Because once they know that they're compromised, they remove the question from the exam, and you'll never see it again.
Really?
Yes. They take this very seriously. Because we are performing brain surgery, and so
this is true. I shouldn't even act surprised. Being in the industry as long as I have, we needed it to a certain degree. I think. Let's face it. We talk about the glory days of 04 through 06.
How about 02?
Okay, I didn't have 02.
Oh, I got 02.
You got 02? See, you had a couple more years than me. But, them glory days, because I was doing wholesale back then, too, and it was great. But the issue was, everybody was jumping in. And we had a lot of people jumping in that shouldn't have been jumping in.
Well, and we had a lot of people whose best friend was making $100,000. Well, I can, too. and we were pulling bodies from anywhere we could get them from to process the paperwork, even though there was very little because it was a lot of stated,
Sure.
stated income, stated asset. And there wasn't a lot to process, but you still had to put it together and put a 2-hole punch in it and send it to an underwriter.
You got some great wholesale stories.
Oh gosh, let me tell you.
I got one.
I'm ready.
While you're thinking of yours.
No, I'm just thinking one I can actually say.
See, yeah. Let's not drop no names, but so I remember I was a wholesale rep down and I covered South Texas.
Oh, that had to be really interesting.
Oh man,
between credit repair and that.
Ooh,
and I'm not talking about the good credit repair that Carl Stanley does, but I'm talking about the the ones that he battles every day.
Dispute.
Yeah.
But I remember I get a call from one of my accounts, and it was one of my better accounts, and it was like, hey, we're opening an office in this part of the valley. We need you to go and train the guy who's the branch manager.
You're the AE.
I'm the AE.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
You don't work for the company.
I don't work for the company.
Okay.
But
But that's who everybody turned to until we actually had.
Yeah. And so I remember I had just bought a car with navigation in it. Right? Now, this is when navigation wasn't running off of like Google Maps. This is when you had to like put the disc in, and it was choppy if you were lucky. And I live in South Texas at the time, so those maps aren't that accurate, right? But I'm all fancy. I got my navigation, so I plug in my number. It took me, I plug in the address. It takes that's back when it took about half an hour to do. And so I plug in the address, and okay, fine. I got my nav laid out, and boom, I'm driving to my appointment. And I get to the location that it said to go to, and I'll never forget, like, it was a vacant building and a vacuum cleaner repair shop. Okay? A vacant building and a vacuum cleaner repair shop. And so I call the guy, and I'm like, hey man, I need to double check this address. I don't know if this is right. No, that's it, bro, that's it. I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. And so I hang up, and I thought, you know what, maybe I messed up, right? Like, this is the address. Maybe my nav is wrong. So I went in to the vacuum cleaner repair shop, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for blah, blah, blah mortgage company. Like, do you happen to know where that is? Maybe it's just opening up or something.
It's in the back.
Yeah, you nailed it. The lady is like, yes, sir. You're going to go down there past those Dysons, turn to the left, and there'll be a big old Stone Cold Steve Austin cutout. Okay, it's next to that. And I'm like, that's the office? Yes, sir. Yes. So-and-so's back there. They're waiting for you.
Oh.
I go back there. I kid you not, Juliana. It was the broom closet.
I have no doubt.
I'm not playing. It was the broom closet of a vacuum cleaner repair shop. They were opening up a mortgage company. There's a guy sitting there with a laptop open, banging out loan applications, and his phone's blowing up. I'm like, how long you been in the business? Like 3 weeks, bro. And I'm like, and you're getting leads? And he was like, yeah, bro, it's awesome. And I don't know what. And here's the best part. I'm sitting there and I'm setting up my computer, and he looks over and he goes, hey, bro. Hey, man, what's a Jiffy? I'm like, a Jiffy? What? Like Jiffy
Like Jiffy
lube?
popcorn?
Like Jiffy lube, right? Like, I think there's one down there. No, dude, they're asking me for the Jiffy. The Jiffy and the 10,003. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, wait. They're asking you for the GFE, which is good faith estimate, and the 1003. That's your loan app. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I kid you not. I spent an hour there doing what I could do, got in my car, and drove home. And I was just like, go with God. Like, God bless you, bro. Like, I wish you luck.
And I hope you never call me again. I believe me. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And it still makes me chuckle when I hear loan officers only refer to the application as a 1003. And I don't know how many are aware, and I know I taught it a lot last year because it was supposed to roll out at the beginning of this year. But all of our GSEs, they are all going to the new application in 2019. Wow. And so I'm trying very hard to move away from calling it a 1003 and calling it a loan application, because Freddie Mac has a different number for it, but we just don't ever refer to it that way.
Right.
Fannie Mae's number is 1003. And so, when I was processing, we always used to joke that the 10:03 was the time the loan officer came to work, and that the 10:08 was the time they went home.
God! Stealing that one too. I'm just going to shut up now and let you talk. I'm just going to take all these nuggets.
Well, and when I processed, it was such a different environment because you had to process loans and you had to verify assets and you had to document income, and we're back to all that. Everything in this world is cyclical, and it's all cycled right back to what I had to do when I first started processing and how we had to document. And we're really depending on things now that we haven't counted on in a long time, like job stability. People actually want you to have a stable employment history. We don't want to see 25 W-2s in the last 2 years.
Why not?
I know.
I just think they're creative.
They're being so unreasonable.
It's just hard.
I don't know. These underwriters.
What do you mean I got to have down payment?
Exactly.
What? Yeah. I've been hearing about more and more about it, about the changes and everything that are coming down. So tell me, what's it like doing what you do?
For the most part, some people probably consider it to be somewhat boring. It's kind of interesting. Last night I printed probably 500 pages out of the Fannie Mae All Regs piece because I needed to read up on a couple of things. And I came downstairs and we were going to watch TV, and he sees this pile in my hand and he's going, "A little light reading today?" And I said, "Yeah, believe it or not, I'll get through most of this, because I just need to scan it. I don't need to read every word."
Right.
But, I just think that, the biggest challenge is staying on top of all the changes. And we've kind of gotten a little break this year because with the exiting of Richard Cordray from CFPB, that has really, and the indecisiveness of who is actually the director now of CFPB.
Right.
And, we haven't had as much enforcement going on. And I think a lot of people are happy that we're going to hopefully not we're not going to set regulation through enforcement, and that we're not going to allow one person or one entity to just make the decisions. Most times when CFPB comes in, if that happens, you don't get a chance to say or explain or do anything to try to explain to them why this happened or how did this occur. You're bad, you're guilty, you're fined, and this is how much it is. And yes, can you appeal it? Sure you can. But did PHH win? So you got to look at those situations and those things. And so Mulvaney so far has said he's not going to rule with such an iron fist. And so I don't know. In some ways, I'm a little disappointed because I don't have anything for class this year yet. Well, nobody got in big trouble like last year.
I heard somebody speak, and maybe I don't know if you were at that luncheon for the Austin mortgage bankers. Not this past one, the one prior to when they had the attorney in.
Yeah, I missed Ari Karen. Would have been awesome.
It was.
He would have been awesome, but unfortunately, my regulators meeting was in New Orleans on the same day, and so I was there. So I missed this luncheon. So do tell.
Well, if I gotta miss something, I'm gonna miss it for NOLA.
Well, I had to throw in the NMLS to make it sound good, but we did go to
I
the
was
one.
There for work.
I absolutely was. That's my story. We're swearing to it, and if you say anything different, I will call you a liar.
Well, but he was kind of echoing some of the sentiment that you just said. He was saying with the I don't want to say the lightning of the CFPB, but just the different environment that we're in. But he went on to say that it doesn't mean you can go out there and do things the way you used to, because what they're seeing now is a lot more state regulated enforcement.
I absolutely will agree with that. And one of the speakers on my day, NMLS has what we call a provider day, and Power Training is a provider of education approved by NMLS.
Right.
And so, we had some multi-state examiners in there, and we also had some regulators from other states, even though we only think of Texas. And so
other states.
I know it's hard to imagine, because since it takes a whole day and a half to get out of Texas, no matter where you start almost. And so, but they're very active and they're very involved.
Yeah.
But you know what I find interesting? Actually, I shouldn't even say that because I totally believe it 100%. But what I found that they actually said was that a lot of their regulation or a lot of their enforcement is not even sought out by them, that loan originators turn each other in all day, every day, all the time.
I believe it.
They see something on Facebook, they see something on LinkedIn, they see something wherever it is, and they send it to the regulator to go after that person.
Right.
And so most of the regulation stems from other originators turning in another originator.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
You'd be surprised. A very small piece of the pie is consumer reported.
That part I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part I believe. I do believe that not much of it. I can see that because I've seen the guys and gals out there who, even if they don't always have something on the other company, they'll just do it just to be jerks. You know what I mean, you know, maybe I don't think I'm over exaggerating that. I mean, I've seen it in the past. I'm not saying it runs rampant, but I have seen where people will be like, yeah, you know, I called so and so on that company, you know, and mainly out of jealousy. It was weird.
Well, it's really interesting, but your competition is your biggest enemy. Whether you want to believe it or not. And so many of us in this industry, we all get along really well for the most part. I really have to say for an industry as close-knit as we are, we do.
Yeah.
And, but I cannot tell you, I will probably receive, just depending on what the environment is, what time, kind of what time of year is it, but I will get at least, 4 or 5 emails from loan officers during the week of screenshots of something that has told, is this okay? Can this person do that? And a lot really for me, or when I get them, is not I'm reporting them, but this is what I saw. Can I also do this?
Gotcha.
And so then I have to take a look at it and see what I think about that.
Right.
And see, okay, is there a violation under RESPA? Is there a violation under Truth in Lending for advertising? Is there a violation under fair lending when it comes to, are we offering it to everyone, just to someone? How is this being handled?
Yeah.
And most of the time, I'm happy to say most of the time, I don't see a violation, but too many times, absolutely. And, sometimes it's not even the originator who put out the post or put out the flyer. It is someone, I had one just the other day that got sent to me that a real estate agent had taken a picture. They were attending a Spurs game, took a picture of the court and said, sent this person a referral and sitting pretty at the Spurs game. And I was, really? Have I taught you nothing?
Wow.
And so it wasn't even the loan officer. It wasn't even the company. It was the recipient of the goodie that was basically putting it out there. And I'm sure that they meant no malice. They don't even have any clue. But, people forget RESPA is the giver and the receiver. If you accept it, you are just as guilty as the person who gave it to you.
Boom.
And they forget that.
That's always my excuse not to buy people lunch.
Glad I already ate.
Sorry, Giuliana. RESPA.
It's Dutch. Yeah. Oh, but see, we're not subject to RESPA, but that's okay. And that's the other thing, Bobby. So many people do not have a really good understanding of who is a settlement service provider.
Right.
And they get really frustrated with builders because they feel like they are doing things that they shouldn't be doing or that they can't do. But you have to remember that a builder is a seller. And a seller can do absolutely anything they want to do as long as they don't violate fair housing.
Yeah.
And, and so it's really, and for my students, that doesn't mean we have to like it. It just means I want you to understand it so that when you go off all crazy at a luncheon yelling at somebody or trying to make your point, that you're
at least educated on what you're talking about.
Try to at least sound intelligent.
Yeah, that's like me debating brain surgery.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. Like, you've got to use the 13 scale scalpel. I don't even know what that is. That's probably not even a thing. But yeah, no, that's always been my thing. Is obviously, it should be everybody's thing. Knowledge is power, right? What's on the horizon? What are you seeing on the horizon? Other than what we've kind of already discussed, what's something else you see coming up that people should know about?
Well, That one I'm going to have to think about for a minute. Just simply because, the people that I've talked to, the implementation of the HMDA piece that came into play in January, even though the new application did not happen as scheduled in January, the implementation of that particular piece, the HMDA piece is still there, but I'm not really hearing that our clients are getting freaked out by the million choices that they have, and I think that in more cases than not, they're disappointed because you see your commercials of 23andMe and all these other things where there's 500 ethnic backgrounds, wow. But there's only 2 on the application. You're either Latino or you're not, or right. You're either Hispanic or you're not.
Nobody's ever cared. In all the years that I've done, that I did mortgages, that part of the application was kind of like the joke. Yeah. I gotta be honest. It was kind of like, for me, it was like the icebreaker. So what do you want to be today? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Because it was like Pacific Islander or something like that. And I did have one time where I called it wrong. And ooh. Yeah. And I did make an assumption that no was not right. And I won't go into details on it. But it was, to me, the assumption I was making was obvious. But to the person I was asking it to, it wasn't so obvious.
Yeah.
So, but I've never, ever had anyone be like, I don't want to do that. I've never had anyone refuse to give me the info either.
I really think a lot of it is how you ask the question or how you pose the question. If they feel that you're going to use it against them in the underwriting process, or that you're going to take it into consideration, then they get get their back up and they feel a little threatened. Yes. But I will say that the biggest thing for us right now is going to be coming in 2019 is going to be this implementation of the application and the separation of the borrower and the co-borrower on the application.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And I'm really hoping that Fannie Mae is listening to the feedback that they have received, because they are the guiding force behind this. Freddie follows Fannie and VA follows FHA, and FHA is going to do whatever Fannie usually is going to do. And so the implementation of the 2 separate applications is going to be, I don't want to use the word offensive, but it's going to be very difficult, especially for married people, to be filling out 2 separate applications, because in this environment, we're not in the 1950s where you have joint checking accounts and you have joint car loans and you have joint credit cards. We're just not in that environment. And even most married couples have his checking account and her checking account, and he doesn't co-sign on her car loan and she doesn't co-sign on his. So you have separate finances, whether you actually think of it that way or not. Yeah. And it is going to be interesting to see how do all of the LOSs start integrating all this, and then how is automation going to figure out and read 2 applications? How's credit reports going to look? Are they going to look? Am I going to start having 2 separate credit reports for a married couple, which I haven't had in ages? And how is all this going to look? And so to me, that's going to be the biggest piece as we go forward into 2019 and we start to implement this. It's mandatory by 2020, and I know everybody's like, that's so far away, but it's already, almost St. Patrick's Day. So,
with the way time flies now, forget it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be here before we know it. And so that's going to be, to me, is going to be the biggest piece for that, for my active originators. For my people that are trying to get in the business, their biggest issue is just getting the knowledge they need to pass that test. The test has changed, as we discussed a moment ago, so dramatically, and shifted from the federal perspective that you need to know federal law, to that you need to know activities, and you need to know you just need to have general knowledge. Well, you're not going to get that unless you're working somewhere as a processor or as a loan officer assistant.
Right.
And so they're going to have to start getting creative on where they go to learn this, because they're not going to get it in their 20-hour class. No. For the most part. And I saw a student at a luncheon not too many days ago that said he had just taken his test, and he said maybe 5 questions that they went over in the class were on the test. And I'm surprised there were 5, because as I said, they retire a question once they know that it's public knowledge. And NMLS has nothing better to do than search through all types of websites and engines to find people that are trying to sell these things. And it's gotten to the degree that people that are going to take the exam are purchasing things through Amazon that will videotape record the test as they take it. And they're not video recording it for themselves. They're video recording it so they can then take the questions and sell them to someone else so they can pass the test. And
wow.
I was really, and I mean, maybe I live in a sheltered world, which I just don't think, but that just would have never even occurred to me to purchase a lapel pin to wear on my suit jacket when I went to go take the test. It would never occur to me to buy a necklace that's in the shape of a cross, of all things, that has a camera in it that will has 2 hours of video that can video the test, and all I need to do is go through the questions and let the camera record all the questions, and then I have them, and then I can go back in and answer them if I'm even there to really take a test.
Oh my gosh!
I
had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting here drinking our bottled waters, and there's templates that you can create that will put a new label on this bottle of water that will have all your cheat sheet answers on it, but it looks just like your Ozarka bottle of water right here, or your Diet Coke on the front, so you're not allowed to take anything into the test room. People are altering their tattoos that they already have that will have their little answers embedded in things, so people have to roll up their sleeves. I mean, this is
altering tattoos.
So, and I don't mean permanently. I'm just saying with a marker, just going in and writing in things into a tattoo that maybe somebody may not catch when they first look at it. And it just is amazing. Just study. Just go, the best advice I can give to anyone who's going to be taking this test or going to have to take it is you need to know the industry. You cannot just know federal law.
Right.
They need to come in. They need to sit with processing. They need to sit with closing. They need to sit with underwriting. They need to sit with origination because they expect you to know all of it. And there are ethical questions that are geared towards ethics in the test that you would not even know the answer if you didn't understand the mortgage process. You wouldn't even know the answers that they give you to pick from. The most logical one would be is the wrong answer because that's not how you should have handled it. Yeah,
I've heard that. I've heard that the wording on some of those questions is
and every question has two right answers.
It's like a damn art form.
Yes, which one is the most correct, and that's what it comes back to. And so. And it's really been hard on schools in general to continue to teach the 20-hour class. We quit teaching 20-hour class probably 3 years ago. We do teach some one-on-one prep whenever we really have somebody who just really has failed 3 times. This is their last chance before they have to wait 6 months. And that's a big hindrance too. I would really wish we could figure out a way to change some of SAFE Act for that.
Right.
Because you fail, you wait 30 days, you fail, you wait 30 days, you get 3 chances, and then you have to wait 6 months before you can take it again. In 6 months, someone has already spent all this money, and now they're back to doing whatever they were doing because no one can afford.
They got to put food on the table.
No, exactly. No one can afford to do nothing for 6 months. Well, very few can afford to do nothing for 6 months. While they wait for an opportunity to retest. And so some give up, and I hate to say they give up, and where do they go to work? At the bank, at the registered environment where they don't need to take the test. So I just have to say to anyone who's listening that if you have a licensed originator sitting in front of you today, that person probably knows more than your person who is not licensed. And so because
yeah, girl.
So
get it, girl.
I have to give some kudos to my originators who pass. And, I don't care if you passed barely with a 75 or you made an 89. You passed.
The one that always throws me off is when somebody, first timer comes back and they're like, yeah, I got a 91. Like, wait, what? How'd you do that? Because I've known people who've been in the industry for years who failed it twice. And, smart. Not they don't need to be in this business. Good originators and they know and they take care of their clients, but they failed twice.
Well, I think the other big thing on the horizon is going to be this transition licensing. I don't know can't get my word together correctly, but for those that are moving from the registered environment to the federal environment or to the state environment, that they're going to have that 120 days to not absolutely lose every penny, every loan they have, or the business that they already have. They can still continue to do things, and they'll be given, and I don't want to say a probationary license because that's not really the right term for it, but be given a license for a short period of time to give them enough time to get the tests done, get fingerprints done, get your background checks done, and the credit report check. Sometimes that's a big hurdle for people.
Right.
The credit report check in itself, and that doesn't mean that today they're having credit issues, but maybe they had them years ago when we had our meltdown.
I've heard about them getting, because I know like whenever they first rolled this out, it was during the meltdown, right? Mm-hmm. So they were being very forgiving on a lot of stuff. But now I've heard, forget it. Like if you got issues that are unresolved,
and they don't care how old they are,
button them up.
That's right. And I helped one of your guys that's licensed out of Dana Allen's office in Addison. And bless his heart, and this is the worst part, you get punished for being honest. And, they want you to be ethical, but yet don't be too ethical because then, this could work against you. And he claimed something on his application that was at least 1983. And it was so long ago, shouldn't even matter, was irrelevant, but he wasn't getting that license until he got that fixed.
Really?
And, yes. And so he and I went through several phone calls and conversations, and it was really an amazing, happy ending because his daughter was getting married that weekend. He found out he cleared it, and he said, I'm going to be able to walk her down the aisle, and I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be smiling because he finally managed to get it done. But it took a lot of time. It took probably almost 6 months before it was remedied through the state. And that
you're really pitching for people to get into the business. I can see that.
Well, I just want you to be aware, and
no,
I don't,
I agree.
I don't mean it to ever be negative. I like all my people to be prepared. I am a first-class Girl Scout, and it's all about being prepared.
Oh, look at you.
Just saying.
So, all right. So go back and tell me the story. What was give me a wholesale story? Because I shared mine. You had time to think of yours.
Well, you had me thinking of other things. And,
you can't think of two things at once.
The only thing I'm going to tell you is, only thing I can top you with on the broom closet is that I went to a house, and I walk in, and then this person is literally originating and processing loans out of their walk-in closet.
Really?
Yes. But it had a window in it, and it had an air conditioning vent.
Well, there you go. And I'm sure the door
locked. And it had
locked.
a door that, that's where I was going next, had a door that locked, and that's all he needed. And I'm thinking, how did you get the credit report people to approve you? Because, they do an on-site inspection. So,
well, some of these NEP, and I don't know how long ago that was.
Oh, this would have been probably 2003, 2002.
Because some of these NEP branch models still let you have a home office.
Absolutely.
And it's completely relaxed as far as, I think there is, allegedly an audit, but, it's pretty relaxed.
Do you mean from the credit reporting agency or from...
from the company. The company's supposed to audit you because licensing and all this other stuff, right?
Well, let me say this, too. TDSML this year changed our definition of what is an office and what does that constitute. Yes. And so now, according to them, your office... No, it better not be any clothing, shoes, anything that doesn't look like office furniture. But you actually have to have someone who is a receptionist. You have to have people. If you are a small shop working out of your home or wherever it is you're doing it, they came back in and redefined what does stick and brick mean.
Really?
And so that has hit a lot of my small, because there are still some small companies out there. There's still some mom and pop shops, and it's still going on. But it is definitely going to impact them, this new definition of what sticks and bricks mean in Texas, is what I can say for that. Other states, I don't keep up with their individual state regulations like I do because I live here. So, and the majority of my business is here.
Dang. So what do you think? Have you had fun?
I've had a great time. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet.
I was nervous, but I guess I did all right.
Will you come back?
Sure.
Will you do another one with me?
Absolutely. We just have to think of some new topics.
Oh, I'm sure you won't have trouble doing that. So I don't do the whole give out your cell phone thing, but if people wanted to reach out to you, let's say one of my 7 listeners comes back and wants to reach out.
Well, now you have 9 because I was on.
Oh, there it is. She's increasing my like list.
There you go.
No, but if they want to reach out to you, how do they find you?
The best way to find me is to just go to powertraininginc.com. Website is always up and running. Classes are starting to get loaded. Everything's on there. You click on the envelope and you'll find me.
Boom. All right, folks. Well, with that said, I want to thank you for taking time to indulge another episode of the Big B Mortgage Podcast. And I want to thank you, Giuliana, for taking time to come and sit in the chair. I know you're always busy.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. And I will have you back, by the way.
Okay.
You've got a lot more to talk about. I can already see it. I feel like I cut you off.
Oh, no. Well, you kind of have to sometimes because I can get, when I'm passionate about something.
I say next time we have cold ones in front of us. What do you think?
Hey, well, we do have a cold one. It's just water.
This is Texas, girl. Come
I
on.
know.
Anyway, hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like Giuliana said, if you want to reach out to her, just go to
powertraininginc.com
and look her up. Reach out to her. And as far as the episode, give us a like, give us a share, give us some comments, man. I need some feedback from you guys. Other than that, I hope you're having a great rest of your week and stay social, everybody. Bye-bye.